what are the structural components of an ecosystem? Now here we will talk about two components. First one is abiotic and biotic. Okay. Now there are two components, structural components of an ecosystem. Those are abiotic and biotic. Now in abiotic components we will talk about inorganic substances, organic substances, and we will talk about climatic factors, right? And in living components or in biotic components we will talk later, we will talk about autotrophs, heterotrophs. We will talk later about this. Now first, in abiotic component we will be talking about inorganic substances. Now what are the inorganic substances possible which can be used in the ecosystem are here. Inorganic substances can be in the form of inorganic substances can be in the form of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen. It can be in the form of phosphorus, sulfur, carbon, etc. All these will come under inorganic, phosphorus and sulfur, not carbon. So see, is already here written carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus, sulfur, etc. All these are considered as the different inorganic substances which are present, and these are absorbed by the plants through the how these all these inorganic substances are absorbed by the plants. These are absorbed with the help of the root hairs. Now with the help of the root hairs and with the help of the sunlight, these will convert the radiant solar energy into the potential chemical energy and try to get the food material or the nutrient material required to that particular ecosystem. Now here we will come across a term called as standing crop. Now what is standing crop? This is important. Now the total amount of inorganic substances present in per unit time, per given time in an ecosystem is called as the standing crop. Standing crop. Now next one is you have organic substances. What do you have in organic substances? Organic substances consist of in organic substances you can see about proteins, carbohydrates, fats, anything like this related with this. So any organic substance includes like proteins, carbohydrate, fats. These are present in the ecosystem and these are interlinked with the other each other for the production of the form an interlink between the biotic and abiotic components, and these can be organic substances in an ecosystem can be taken into consideration as the amount of biomass present in an ecosystem. Now what is biomass? When we are studying in first class, I have given the definition. Biomass is the amount of living material present in an ecosystem. So any organic substance which is present in the interrelationship with all the biotic components of the ecosystem are called as organic substances, and these are considered, organic substances may be present either in the biomass form. Biomass is nothing but it is the amount of living material present in an ecosystem is called as biomass. Okay, next one we have is the climatic factor. So in climatic factor what we will have, we will take into consideration in the climatic factor, we will take into consideration the atmospheric pressure, rainfall, temperature, atmospheric pressure, all these will be taken into consideration. Now here whatever may be the rainfall, temperature, atmospheric pressure, it needs energy, right? The ultimate source of energy which is coming to the ecosystem is basic source of energy. You will get it from the sun. So it will be in the form of solar energy, right? So here the trapping of solar energy from the sun and converting it into potential chemical energy and transferring this chemical energy into potential chemical energy right. So for any ecosystem to get energy, it will be the whole source will be the solar energy. Solar energy we get it from sun, and from sun the solar energy is transferred or taken and it is transferred to a potential chemical energy, and this chemical energy is sent to different tropic levels for the fulfillment of the energy required for a ecosystem. Now here this energy flow through ecosystem, this energy flow in an ecosystem, it will gradually diminish from one trophic level to the another trophic level. For example, here if it is an ecological pyramid, for example, if you draw a diagram of ecological pyramid, it will be having producers, consumers and T1, T2, T3 layer, right. So if the solar energy is there, okay, now it will give energy, it will convert into potential chemical energy and it will be flowing the energy from one trophic level to the other trophic level. So when it is going from bottom to the top, at every level there will be some loss of energy coming, there will be diminishing of the energy. As it goes to the top, the energy level will be reducing, right. Now these are about your abiotic components of the ecosystem. Now when we talk about the biotic components, previously we have studied about abiotic components, inorganic, organic substances and climatic factors. Now we will talk in detail about the biotic components. So what are biotic components? All living organism of an ecosystem constitute the presence of living components or biotic components. So the amount of living material which is present in an ecosystem is called as, the amount of living material which is present in an ecosystem is called as standing crop. So what? The amount of living material present in an ecosystem is called as standing crop. It is important. And if this standing crop is measured in terms of weight, if this is measured in terms of weight, then it is called as biomass. If this standing crop is measured in terms of weight, then it is called as biomass. Now they are divided into autotrophs, heterotrophs, right. Now again these are, heterotrophs are again divided into macro consumers, micro consumers, right. And again these macro consumers are divided into three types: primary, secondary and tertiary, right. And again these micro consumers are divided into two types: decomposers, transformers. Okay, this will also fetch you some questions here. Biotic components is nothing but the living material present in an ecosystem. It is of two types: autotrophs and heterotrophs. Autotrophs are also called as producers and heterotrophs are also called as consumers. Okay. Now heterotrophs are again of two types: macro, micro, and macro consumers are of three types: primary, secondary, tertiary consumers. These are of two types: decomposers and transformers. Now we will talk first about autotrophs. Now what are autotrophs? Autotrophs, the word itself divides auto and trophs. Auto means self. First we will talk about autotrophs. Now what are autotrophs? Listen carefully here. Autotrophs is divided into two: auto here, auto and trophs. So here auto means self, preparation of self. So the plants which have the ability to prepare food by themselves, those are called as autotrophs, right. Now here these are also called as producers, as they occupy the base of the pyramid. Now why we are telling these are autotrophs? Because these have the ability to prepare their own food from, they don't depend on other plants or organisms for the required food material. Now here in this process they make use of the amount of solar energy, radiant solar energy which is coming from the sun, and they will, the amount of solar energy which is coming from the sun, and they convert it into potential chemical energy, and this will help, and therefore potential chemical energy. These autotrophs are also called as, otherwise called as converters. Alternative name for autotroph is converters, or it is also called as transducers. Autotrophs are also called as converters or transducers, and the food chain, always in food chain they occupies, these producers occupies the base of the pyramid in any ecological pyramid. Now next comes the heterotrophs. These heterotrophs are called as consumers. Autotrophs, ecological pyramid, they occupies the base of the pyramid. They are called as producers. Example for autotrophs are green plants, the example for these are green plants, photosynthetic bacteria, chemosynthetic bacteria. Right. So, these will be the examples. You will get questions. Choose one of the examples of autotrophs, means it may be either green plants, or it may be either photosynthetic bacteria, or it may be either chemosynthetic bacteria. These are important, and these are also called as producers, which occupies the base of the pyramid. These are also otherwise called as converters or transducers. Autotrophs means ability to prepare the food by themselves. Okay. Now, next we have is consumers. The next section we have is biotic components. The first one was autotrophs, the next we have is consumers. Now, consumers are also called as organisms or the living organisms which do not have chlorophyll. The autotrophs are the organisms which have the chlorophyll, but these are the organisms which do not have the chlorophyll. They must obtain their energy. They depend on the green plants either directly or indirectly for the preparation of the food material, and they utilize the matter built up by the producers or built up by the autotrophs. The examples for this will be herbivorous animals which are dependent on the plants. Now, heterotrophs are again divided into two types. Those are macro consumers and micro consumers. Micro consumers, heterotrophs are of two types here. Macro consumers, micro consumers. So, first when we are talking about macro consumer, as the name itself indicates, macro means large. So, large sized animals which depend on the plant for their food material are called as macro consumers. They are of three types: primary consumers, primary macro consumers, or you can call it as primary consumers, or you can call it as secondary consumers or secondary macro consumers, or tertiary macro consumers or tertiary consumers. Right? Now, so as I said earlier, macro consumers are nothing but large size bodied animals, large body sized animals which depend on plants for the food material. It is of two types: primary, secondary and tertiary. Now, all here take into point, all the examples of each section are very important for your multiple choice. Now, here what are primary consumers? These primary consumers are nothing but these are herbivorous plants. These are herbivores which eat green plants. These are the primary consumers are the herbivores which eat the green plant for the completion of the requirement of their food material. Okay. Now, in this they occupy the second position. Second position, and the example for this is, why I am saying second position, because for example, if it is a diagram of ecological pyramid, okay, if we consider it as a rough diagram of ecological pyramid, it will be having producers, consumers and decomposers. Okay, the basic structure what we have in ecological pyramid is it will have producers, consumers and decomposers. So, producers are nothing but the autotrophs. This is trophic, each level is called as trophic level, trophic 1. Okay. Now, we are talking about trophic 2. So, this is 2. So, that is why I said consumers will occupy the second position, and in consumers are also again it is divided into 3 layers: T2, T3, T4. Primary consumers, secondary consumers, tertiary consumers. Right. So, primary consumers are those herbivorous animals or living organisms which eat green plants. Now, example, what are the animals which eat green plants? It may be goat, it may be cow, right? All these animals which eat the green plant, it may be deer, or you can say a rabbit, all will come under primary consumers. Okay. Now, secondary consumers are those consumers which occupy third position. Okay. These are carnivorous animals which eat herbivores, means this will eat this. Secondary consumers will eat the primary consumers, like frogs. Examples will be frogs, mollusks, all will come here. Frogs, mollusks, small birds, all will be coming under the secondary consumer. So, here only primary consumer, secondary consumer. So, it will be primary consumer will be second position, secondary consumer will be third position. Okay. Now here in third type of consumer is tertiary consumers. Now these type of consumers are those consumers, these are called as carnivores. Now these are carnivores, and what we will do, these are carnivores, and these tertiary consumers will get the food material by consuming both the primary and secondary consumer. Means for the food material, this type of consumer depends on secondary as well as primary consumers. Means these are the animals which eat both secondary and primary consumer, and example for this are snake eating frogs. Snakes will be eating frogs. And one more example will be like small birds eating fishes. Right? These examples will be easy. So every bit will come for your multiple choice question. These are herbivorous green plants. These are which are consumers which depend on plants for food, and these are the consumers which depend on both primary and secondary consumer for the food material. These examples are very important: cow, goat, deer, rabbit, frog, mollusks, small birds, snake eating frogs, small birds eating fishes. Okay. Now in addition to that, in some ecosystem you will also see the presence of fourth type of consumer here. Those are called as top consumers or top carnivorous animals. These are called as, instead of 3 in some ecosystem, you will also see primary, secondary, tertiary, and one more will be there, that is called as top carnivores. Now here you will see the presence of top carnivores. Now what are top carnivorous? Top carnivorous animals are those animals which are not eaten or not killed by any other organisms here. They are at the top position. Like man, it is not eaten or it is not killed by any other organism. Like lion. So what is the example for the top carnivores here? It is top carnivores. Right. In top carnivores you will see the presence of lions, vultures, and you will see the presence of leopard, etc. All will come under the top carnivores, which are not killed and eaten by any other animals. Okay. So there are this type of carnivores. Those are called as top carnivores, which are not further eaten or killed by any other organisms. Examples are lions, vultures, and leopards. Now here we say that what is the basic function of consumers here? The basic animals, the basic function is the consumers will take plants and animals as their food material. It will take from here and here, it will take from here, and top carnivores will eat all of them, but it is not eaten or killed by 3 of them. Okay. So now here what we will do, they will take the complex food material, they will break down it into smaller pieces and digest so that it can fulfill the nutrient requirement of the food material in an ecosystem. So in this way, the plants which are able to prepare their own food material, which are green in plants, are called as producers, and the plants which are heterotrophic organisms are called as secondary consumers. Primary consumers and secondary consumers. There are 2 types. Okay. Now next one is you are having a concept called as micro consumers. Now what is micro consumer here? Now what is micro consumer here? Micro consumers are those organisms, these are popularly known as another type of consumers is micro consumers. Okay. Now micro consumers are called as saprophytes, or it is also called as decomposers. It is again divided into 2 types, decomposers and transformers. Now here what they are doing, the examples for this micro consumers will be bacteria, actinomycetes members, and fungi. Now this what they will do, they feed, this type of micro consumers feed upon dead decaying organic matter. They take into complex dead decaying organic matter, they break into smaller pieces and digest the food material, and break it into smaller pieces and develop into simple soluble compounds. And in this a number of raw materials and during the process of breaking a complex food material into smaller simple soluble substances to the as a nutrient, lot of raw materials are being produced or released during this process, and this process of releasing lot of raw material during the process of breaking complex food into simple food, this process is called as mineralization. Okay. Next one is transformers. Now what this will do? This will also constitute another set of bacteria. They also act on dead decaying organic organism products, and they decompose the dead decaying organic products and they break down the complex into simple products, and the breaking down of that complex product into simple product will change or convert them into organic and inorganic substances, and they basically convert into organic and inorganic substances. Right. So the micro consumers are also called as saprophytes, decomposers, which basically depend on dead decaying organisms for their food material. So there they take the complex food, break down into smaller pieces, and during the process of breaking down, they release a lot of raw materials are released during this process. This process is called mineralization. And in transformers also, decomposed products are converted into organic and inorganic substances. Okay. This is about the biotic components of ecosystem.